Alright, we're here for another story time. Today's not a military story, but it's something that's really close to my heart. So, literally 10 years ago, my mom got custody of me in the courts. Parents are divorced, whatever. Not super rare in America, unfortunately. And yeah, so I went from living in Virginia Beach, Virginia, all the way to living out in Vancouver, Washington for a couple of years. Or I guess for really about 8 years before I became an adult and I decided to join the army and all that. So last week, after, it's 2023 and I left in 2013, after a little over 10 years of being gone, I actually went back to where I came from. When I was first grade through fifth grade, I went to a private school. It was part of a local church. And, the church is on one side of the road, the school's on the other side. So I went back just because it was only about 5-6 hours from where I live now. And so much was the same, but so much was so different. Like, when I actually started getting closer, even though obviously by the time I left, I was only like 12 or 13 years old, like, I realized I don't need Google Maps anymore. I know where this turn goes. My dad drove me on this route to school hundreds, if not over like a couple thousand times. I was like, oh yeah, there should be a Wendy's up ahead on the left. There was the Wendy's. I was like, I think there was like an AutoZone on the right. There was an AutoZone up ahead on the right. And it was just like, so much yet so little had changed. I remember, so I was driving up to the church. First thing I noticed is as a kid, I remember there being like literally dozens of buses in the parking lot. I only saw like 2 buses, but they were in a different parking lot really far off, and they were smaller than I remember. So I'm like, okay, that's neat. But it's like the playground. So when I was little, there was this, there's a playground or whatever, and there was a fence that like covered the side to the road, but that's all it covered. Now like the entire playground is in a fence. So I'm like, okay, I guess, can't have children running off on you or whatever. But like the biggest thing I noticed is when I was a kid, there were these the giant concrete tubes that they use for like sewers or whatever, like the giant ones that people can walk through pretty easily. We had, I think, maybe 4, or at least 2. I don't remember exact because obviously this was literally literally over 10 years ago that I was there. But there was these giant concrete tubes, and the outside of them was painted yellow. I remember that part specifically. And we would play on them. And I remember when I was really little, because I started first grade, like when you're really little, you weren't strong enough or big enough to jump up on top of them. So the older kids who are also on recess, they would have to help pull you up. That's if they liked you. That's how you know like you're in with the cool kids or whatever. And like when you finally grew up and became strong enough to be able to jump up there on your own, and then you could help other people get up there, that was like a big sense of accomplishment. And those concrete tubes were gone. And I mean, like, I guess, yeah, it's a quote unquote safety hazard or whatever, but like, I don't know. I think it's kind of sad because, at least for me, I have so much nostalgia and so many good memories of just like, being inside of those concrete tubes with a friend just talking about whatever. And it's just, it's sad to see that go. It's sad to look at things from the past and be like, oh, man, it doesn't exist anymore. Another thing that doesn't exist anymore is, so the light poles or whatever, there was this wooden light pole that had a circle of stones around it and had a memorial plaque when I was a kid, because apparently way back in the day, some electrician was working on the light pole, and apparently electricity wasn't turned off or whatever, or something happened and he got shocked to death, and they had a memorial there in honor of him, and like, oh, it's unfortunate. Which, I mean, that's probably a little weird to have, but I don't know. I just remember that being there as a kid. That's not there anymore. The light pole's not there. I didn't walk over to the playground, so maybe there still is a memorial plaque on the ground. But from the distance, I couldn't see anything. It looked like it was all gone. I will say the area where you could eat outside of the bathrooms, it looked a lot cleaner. They definitely redid the outside of the building, so that's good. Good to see money, maintenance, and all that. The church. So like I went in for a church for a service, and like it's not a tiny church, but as a kid, I remember thinking the place was massive. I thought it was absolutely massive, and like I've been to like really big Baptist churches, And like in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I was at one of those as a kid. No, this church not that big. It was like 200 people max, maybe. Like maybe I mean, if you squeeze people in there, you could maybe hit 3 or 400. But like, it was not a church meant for tons of people. And it's just so funny because like I just have because I was when I was a kid, I was like what, maybe 3 feet tall. And I remember just like running up to like this. There's this really thin like second balcony level or whatever. And I remember running up there with one of my friends, and we would like hide in like a little corner, and we would try and play Pokemon games with each other during church, cause like during school like we couldn't play, and like this was like our one chance to hang out on the weekend or whatever. And it was just like the nostalgia was just hitting me, man. But yeah, the church looks the exact same as I remember, just a lot smaller than I thought it was as a kid. And on the same note of that, as a kid, I remember thinking that the school building I was in, I remember thinking it was super tall. Now, to clarify, it's only a one-story building. And now going back to it as an adult, the building is like maybe 40 feet tall. It's probably like 35 feet tall. It's a small building, not that big at all. But as a kid, like I remember thinking the building was so big. And now I'm like, wow, that is not a big building. That was in a very small school. So, yeah, I guess just I got there, I went up to the door, I came in, and at first I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna know anyone. The old pastor, and I think he was also the old principal. Instantly, I recognized him. He looked the exact same as I remember, and he recognized me. And he's like, "Hey, you used to be a student here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we talked for a bit, and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "How long has it been?" I was like, "It's literally been 10 years." And we talked a bit, and luckily, because I was like, it's been 10 years. None of my teachers have passed, so they're all still around. So that's cool. And I ran into two of them. The weird thing was is I was like, I don't know if she was my teacher or not, because I remember her having brown hair, and her hair's all it's all gray slash white now. And she's like, yeah, a decade will do that to you. And I was like, oh, all right. But yeah, it was just good to just see people, and it was cool. It was cool for them. They got to see that I was growing up now, and I was in the military, and I got to just see that they're all still doing well. And but yeah, I got to see one of my former classmates. We had a nice little talk. Apparently a lot of my friend group is still local from back in the day. It was just a really cool experience to just be like my hometown where I grew up for first 12 years of my life. Um, just it's good to see that like it's still there, it's still thriving, and everyone I know from my childhood is still doing well.